Hello everyone and welcome to another Getting Stuff Painted, my bi-weekly update, give or take, on the miniatures I've been painting for the games we cover here on the channel. Another fairly quick gap between this one and the last. Been painting a lot of things. My dog is crying at the window because there's work getting done across the street. For some reason on a rainy day they're doing some wood cutting in the street, which doesn't seem safe to me, but whatever. So apologies in advance for any jump scare barks she might do. Anyway, that does mean she's not dropping tennis balls for me to throw, so there'll be less interruptions in that regard. We have a little bit of the Batman miniature game to talk about. We have a big chunk of the Dark Souls board game, and then finally we have a massive chunk, if you go by scale alone, of Nemesis the board game, specifically just the Intruders, which is what they call the base alien race for that game, including the Queen that we'll talk about last, because as normal we're going to go from left to right. So let's start with the Moroney crime family, who are the missing link to my collection of organised crime for the Batman miniature game. These, don't know if you can tell just by the way I was holding them there, these are the old metal versions of these sculpts. Found them for 60% off on, I think it was Whaling Games, a retailer in the UK that I got these from. They were 60% off, dirt cheap. You could get the plastic ones, which might have parts missing, parts broken, etc., because it's the old resin, or you can trust in the old metal ones, and that's what I did, plus the price was great. And if you're looking to get into the Batman miniature game and want to try and do it cheap, it is worth noting a lot of retailers, at least this is true for the UK, it might be different elsewhere, they have a lot of dead stock from like early 2nd edition through to mid to late 2nd edition that's just taking up space in their warehouse, and as a result they often sell it off cheap. So it's a good chance to get into a crew on the cheap side. Then you can look at the 3rd edition stuff that's a bit more expensive. But we have Mr. Moroney. He is, you might not know him, but he is famous. He created Two-Face. He's the one who threw acid into Harvey Dent's face. He often is a rival with the Roman Falcone. So it's a bunch of guys in suits. So honestly, I think this guy looks like season 1 Columbo, which is what I enjoyed and kind of painted him like. Columbo's trademark jacket, and then he did have a grey suit in the first season from what I remember, and black hair before he went grey. So this is Skeletal Horde for his jacket, Basilicanum grey for his trousers and suit, Gilliman flesh used for all their flesh tones, and Black Templar for his head. I don't know if he's meant to be holding something or just doing that very stereotypical like hey gangster thing. So I've not painted anything because as far as I can tell it's just his fingers. I'm not 100% sure again, so I might be wrong about that. He might be holding a coin, I guess. Oh, he could be holding a thingy of acid that he threw at Harvey. I'm not sure. So then we have the 3 gangsters that came in his box. Let's see if I can remember their names. I only remember his name because it's not Fat Tony, it's Fat Johnny, I believe. Ultramarines blue for his suit. Nothing fancy again. He's just wielding a tire iron. He's quite chunky. And as with most organised crime, he's cheap and cheerful, easy to take out, but you have a lot of them. And again, Gilliman flesh, and lead belcher for the buttons. Not too happy with how that one came out. The colour is not quite what I wanted. This next guy, he's very unfortunate. He's very unfortunate because of what he looks like. I don't even mean my paint job, I mean look at the official paint job. I think his name's Malatesta, something like that. And he kind of looks like a cross between Charlie Chaplin and one of history's greatest monsters, which is very unfortunate, but he is a cheap and cheerful henchman. He has a one-use glass bottle, or broken glass bottle, sorry, that he is wielding in the sculpt. Black Templar for his suit, hair, suspicious mustache, Militarum green for the broken bottle, and Basilicanum grey for the base. That's the super old school base as well, like no slot to put them in. Not the usual cobblestone. Oh, I am getting tennis balls dropped for me. We have begun that phase of the video recording. Perfectly fine, I'm sure. And nothing much else to say about him either. I think he's like 17 rep or something, super cheap. Last guy has a shotgun that looks like a grenade launcher to me, like the barrel is too round and thick. But pretty cool looking pose, he looks very intimidating. I was tempted to paint his suit black to give him that Agent 47 look, but I've already done that for organised crime people, so I decided to just go with the official paint job, which is more grayscale. Still got a red tie, officially. Brown shoes, that's snake bite leather for the shotgun wooden bits, and also his shoes. And that's it, he's bald. The paint sunk really well into his face. I'm very happy with how his face came out. Which again, is not really my doing, it's just sometimes the contrast paint sits nicely. And I guess I've got to throw a ball, so let me move these to the side. Alright, let's move on to the Dark Souls board game, which I'm still progressing with, even though I am going to prioritise getting Nemesis on the channel first. Right now, Bardsong's kind of taking that place. Speaking of which, I'm going to have to paint up the heroes for that, I think. Definitely not going to paint up the enemies, there's too many. But still, working on some of the quicker stuff to do for the Dark Souls board game. And to that end, I picked two of my favourite invaders, because I do plan to use the invader mechanic. This is Man-Eater Mildred, a classic. She's appeared in multiple Souls games. She's, well, technically a homage to her. It's in Elden Ring. It's not her, but it's her. They just can't call her Man-Eater Mildred. So, she does have a reference in that, I think. This is in focus. This is the same way as for both these that I'm about to show, that I painted Chester last time. I checked his name because it was bothering me. I couldn't remember. I still don't remember the moniker before his name, but it's something Chester. And he has a disturbing grin. This is the Xanthus crown, forever known as the Custard Tornado, even if it's red because you're an invader. The Custard Tornado is fantastic. He's very top heavy though, like if you even slightly misplace him, he will kind of tip like that, because the tornado itself is a big old chunk of resin and it weighs him. Like he is top heavy. It's hard to tell just seeing it, I suppose, but he is top heavy because of the Custard Tornado. Painted both these the exact same way I did Chester. The base coat was Blood Angels Red, and then a dry brushing of Grey Seer over the top, then a wash with Nuln Oil. Simple as that, and just matte black base like I've been talking about as well. Super simple. Again, they come in red plastic or resin, whatever, so you don't need to do it. It's optional, but I think it does make them look a little bit better. Then we have Onion Knight. Now, if you remember correctly, last time I showed off Onion Knight, but that was like the player character in Onion Knight's armour. This is Sigurd of Katarina as a summon. So as a result of him being a summon, he is pure white because he's a good summon. So super simple, base coat of Grey Seer, and then all over the top the Apothecary White contrast paint, which I'm not a fan of, as you'll know if you watch these videos, but here it does the job. Didn't feel like it needed anything else. I feel like Nuln Oil or Agra Surf Shade over the top would add too much depth in shadow. They're supposed to be very bright. If anything, I should have done a dry brushing of pure white over the top, I think, just to give it that kind of like shine. I don't have any good non-Grey Seer white to paint though, but that's what I might do in the future as well. And again, base exactly the same. Also simple, but no less fun to do, was of course, if only I could be so grossly incandescent. So this is, I was going to say Sigurd, it's not Sigurd, I'm blanking on his name. Well, the Praise the Sun guy. Oh, I can't believe I'm blanking on his name, hang on. Yes, I did Google it, because it was bothering me. Solaire of Astora, and Mr. Jolly Corporation of himself. I would never have remembered Astora. I would have remembered Solaire if I'd thought for a second, especially because it sounds unrelated, but it was going to bother me for like 5 minutes if I didn't double check. So Solaire, he was base coat in Grey Seer, and then this is just Nazdrag Yellow over the top. Nothing fancy, this is purely just the one contrast paint all over. His summon is of course bright and golden, grossly incandescent, that's why he's not the usual white that Sigurd is. And he's in his classic Praise the Sun pose. I will never forgive myself for forgetting his name, but there you have it. I guess he's also sort of referenced in Elden Ring in a few different ways, not least the pose he's currently doing. So yes, Solaire, done. And then I think I showed off a bunch of Silver Knights last time, so just as a matter of note, done in the same way, we have two close combat focused Silver Knights. I definitely showed off at least two Great Bow ones last time. Exact same colours, exact same process. It's the wash, the Nuln Oil wash doing most of the work here on top of what is a good sculpt. A well detailed sculpt, like the detail on that shield is fantastic. The wash just sits in the recesses like it's meant to, makes it look perfect to how it does in the game. Again, not complimenting my paint job, I'm complimenting the sculpt and how well it takes to the resin, to the wash rather. So that is two more done of basic enemies. Sort of basic enemies, I guess the hollows are the basic enemies, but you'll still meet them on the way to even just like a mid-boss. Not as many as later on, but still. They're also super quick to do. So last but by no means least, we have a myriad amount of the intruders from the board game Nemesis. Last time I showed off kind of like my test run of doing a crawler type, and then a couple of the facehugger type enemies that are a bit different, along with one of the player characters. This time went whole hog on the large aliens. because I need these done to be able to start playing a game fully painted. And I've kind of guesstimated how many I'd roughly need if playing with a single character. Going ahead, I'd probably use 2 characters simultaneously, and that's probably going to need more intruders painted in general. But last time we had a crawler, some facehuggers, which are called... Ooh, crawlers? No, the crawlers are the ones I'm talking about. I can't remember what the facehuggers are called because I just want to say facehugger because that's what they are. This time though, we have the 2 adult sculpts that are in the game. So we have those. We have a single breeder, which is a larger lad, and then the largest lad, who is also presumably a lady because this is the queen. So I'll go over how I painted them again, but I did the exact same thing I did with the practice crawler last time. So they're all based in Grey Seer, and then they have a Black Templar coating put on them liberally. Sometimes had a little trouble with it sticking, similar to the Modiphius resin, but not too much. Once that was done, I did an overly generous helping of a dry brush of the Fang. One of just a normal Citadel paint. It's just any kind of like darkish blue would suit as a dry brushing for these, I think. Also, I love this sculpt. It looks so intimidating, especially compared to the size of like the normal human from that game. And then once that was dry, I did a little bit of the Nurgling slime texture paint from Citadel in their mouths and on some of their, well, not on this one, but as they breed up, I decided to make them look slimier and slimier, kind of starting with their mouth as a ball gets dropped next to me. A little bit on the base as well. The base is just lead belcher silver, non-oil over the base as well. Didn't do any washes over the aliens themselves. I felt like it wasn't necessary, but if you wanted them to have a bit of a shinier finish, what you could probably do is use a gloss. If you wanted them to have that, like the actual xenomorphs, which they're based on, are much shinier. So I think if you wanted that, a gloss would be the way to go, a gloss wash of some kind. So this is also an adult. This is the same kind of like basic alien type, just in a different pose. I'm not sure, like he looks more animalistic in that pose. This pose he just looks much more intimidating because he's so much taller. He's smashed through a bit of the ship or the door. So I put like slime over that because he's drooling, because maybe he's about to lunge at somebody. He's got his hands up, his pincers or tail, whatever. But yeah, they knew that the aliens were the draw in terms of like quality, because I do feel like the alien sculpts are much more detailed compared to the human ones, at least in the base box, that is. So exactly the same with him. And then we have the breeder, second to last. The dog is being very patient. Actually, no, she's not. And I literally have 3 tennis balls at my feet. I'll pick one and throw one. There, I threw one. So the breeder is what an adult eventually becomes. So I decided to make them quite slimy. Also because the green on the black with the blue dry brush I thought looked quite nice in a disgusting kind of way, but kind of made it look like they've got glowing bits inside. Not necessarily that it's slime, just that it's like muscle, kind of like just glossy muscle. So that's kind of the theme I went with. I went a bit too heavy on the queen, I think. But I think the breeder has just the right hint of the green glow. Obviously very liberal in the mouth. But again, this one would not look amiss in a Tyranid army if painted right. Very nice looking. They're called breeders, but they don't really have any rules for breeding other monsters, by which I mean aliens. So I'm not quite sure why they went with the codename breeders for them, but maybe I'm just missing something. And then finally, we have the big queen itself. Again, a little too overboard with the slime, I feel. Having a little bit of... oh, there we go. And she's cradling a face hugger, and... oh, you know, they're just called larvae, I think, or larva. And they're pulling up like one of the hatches on board the Nemesis, and it's just filled with them and they're flooding out, which in itself is intimidating, because usually, not always, but usually you're going to run into the queen when you go to the nest. And if you do that, she's going to be filling the place with these things, so it makes sense. It's a great pose and very intimidating looking, but as I say, I think I went a little bit too overboard with the slime paint on her. Bit too much. Sometimes less is more, you know, that is a true saying, and I went a bit too far with it, but at the same time it looks okay. It does look like she's slimy, as opposed to just like the hint of a glow underneath her like chitin armor, which is what I was hoping for. So not quite the effect I wanted, but the sculpt itself does a lot of work for making it look better than it is with my paint job, and on the table, good enough. It makes, because at a table length, you're talking about like, you might on a camera might be seeing it like that far away. the green seems less intrusive. It just seems to hint, which I think is better. And again, that should pick up better on camera as a result. And you're going to be scared watching that thing chase your character down inside the Nemesis if you run into it. I told the story before, I can't remember which video, but when I was trying to learn to play Nemesis, playing it digitally, just trying to get to grips with it, second ever game, yeah, I think it was second ever full game, first ever proper game, playing solo as the scout, second room I discovered on board the ship, the nest, end of turn event. If you're in the nest, spawn the queen, which is just the way the game can randomly kill you sometimes. So this showed up for me on, I think it was turn 2. Turn 3 at the latest, I think it was turn 2. So that is just the way the RNG with that game works. Sometimes it will just kill you. But it's very fun. It's a very, very well made game, which is why it's rated so highly as a solo/cooperative game. So we'll be running into these, the queens, the adults, the breeder, the crawlers and the larvae at some point in the future. As I say, at present I'm currently monitoring how Birdsong is doing on the channel, because this you can see here, that's half of the Birdsong box. It's so long it's actually cutting into this half of the table that I use for these painting updates and smaller unboxings. It uses up an intrusive amount of space, and as a result it needs to do well on the channel to warrant taking up this space, because it could be used for other things, like for example Nemesis. As a result of, or if it does well, Nemesis might have to be a little bit postponed, or I could just film it somewhere else, but it's a little bit awkward. Now, you know, these games take up a lot of space, but there will be Nemesis in the future, and Nemesis is being prioritised because it stayed ahead long enough in the vote I ran on the channel, and we'll be going to a Dark Souls board game at some point in the future as well. There's no rush on the Dark Souls board game, it's been out for like 4 years at this point, so there's no rush. I know Nemesis is about that old as well, so there's really no rush for either of them, but I am looking forward to getting stuck into both, honestly. I think they're great fits for the channel because of their solo focus. Anybody can do them as well. You don't need to paint the stuff if you don't want to. But on that note, that is going to conclude this painting update, and if you want to show me what you have been painting, assuming you have, feel free to do so at Twitter. The link is in the description box below. It's at GamerEnd. Show me what you've been painting, even if it's from a game you've not, or I've not been playing. I don't mind. I just like seeing painted stuff, and I don't care about your skill level either. You could be a million times better or a million times worse. It does not matter. All that matters is you enjoy the process. It's fun, it's relaxing, it's calming, and overall your table will look better, even if you're standing a metre away to make it look good with painted miniatures. And on that note, next time I think we'll probably see the heroes of Birdsong painted, the 3 I'm using anyway. We will see some more Nemesis, we'll see some more Dark Souls, and depending on when the release dates, because I think they've been postponed again, we'll see some Crisis Protocol and some Batman. There's a brand new set of releases tying in with the James Gunn Suicide Squad movie that I'm looking forward to coming out for the Batman game, including King Shark, of course, amongst others. But anyway, that's going to do it. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in roughly 2 weeks for another one. Until then, thank you for enjoying my rambling, and ta-ta for now.